Emily stood at the front of the line, her pigtails swinging behind her as she impatiently tapped one foot, waiting for her friends to arrive. At just 9 years old, she was used to getting everything she wanted. Over time, she had become a bossy child who rarely considered anyone's feelings but her own. Her parents were wealthy but always busy. Her father constantly traveling for international business and her mother managing a high-end fashion boutique. Most of the time, Emily was left in the care of the family's housekeeper, who spoiled her endlessly. As a result, Emily grew up, believing the world existed to fulfill her every desire. Moments later, her 3 neighborhood friends, Melissa, Ava, and James, arrived, giggling amongst themselves. They were all about the same age. Their shoulders weighed down with backpacks or purses, but they followed Emily's lead in almost everything. Emily smirked, tilting her chin up slightly in a self-assured way. The suburban lawns around them rustled, with a gentle breeze carrying an eerie whine they couldn't quite place. Then they saw it, a dog. Its ribs jutted out beneath its dirty, matted fur as it crept out from behind a row of trash cans. It was a German shepherd, but so thin and filthy that its noble breed was barely recognizable. Its eyes darted nervously from one child to the next, filled with fear and uncertainty. "You! Look at that disgusting thing!" Emily shrieked, taking a step back as if simply being near the creature would somehow taint her. The wave of disgust quickly spread through the group. "Yeah, that's gross," Melissa said, wrinkling her nose. "Go away, you ugly beast," James shouted, his voice cracking slightly as he joined in. The dog hesitated, its ears pinned back. It was clearly terrified, trembling in place. Emily's face twisted in revulsion as she bent down, grabbing a small stone from the sidewalk. Without hesitation, she hurled it toward the dog. "Get lost," she muttered in her native language, then repeated in English. "Go away, you ugly beast." The stone barely missed the dog's paw, bouncing off the pavement with a sharp clatter. Startled, the German shepherd let out a high-pitched yelp and bolted, disappearing around the corner of a nearby house. Emily smirked, satisfied that she had driven the creature away. The moment might have seemed insignificant, but it set the tone for everything that would come next. Her heart pounded with a strange sense of triumph. She loved the feeling of power. Her friends stared at her with admiration, as if she had just proven herself braver and cooler than before. None of them spared another thought for the frightened dog. However, they were unaware that across the street, a man named Mr. Thomas had been watching from his front porch. Mr. Thomas was a retired man with graying hair and a quiet, gentle demeanor. He had seen everything: the terrified dog, the cruel laughter, and the way the children had treated the helpless creature. He remained still, his gaze lingering on Emily and her friends as they walked away, unaware of the consequences their actions might bring. If they had just enjoyed the best of pranks, a frown drew deep lines across his forehead. He had seen a lot in his life, but cruelty, especially toward creatures that couldn't defend themselves, always troubled him deeply. Still, he remained silent. For now, Emily and her friends were long gone, chattering and joking without a trace of remorse. Yet unbeknownst to them, this was only the beginning of a story that would unfold with far greater stakes and far deeper lessons than any of them could have imagined. Emily's behavior toward the stray German shepherd did not improve. As the days went by, whenever she caught sight of the dog working around the neighborhood, usually rummaging for scraps in garbage bins or skulking near the bushes, her natural reaction was contempt. She had convinced herself this animal was beneath her, an eyesore that dirtied the pristine sidewalks of their affluent neighborhood one afternoon. While Emily and her friends lounged on a patch of grass near the neighborhood park, they spotted the dog again. It was wandering on the other side of the street, sniffing around a public trash can in search of something to eat. The breeze carried its faint whimper to them. Emily shot to her feet. "You don't belong here. Go sleep." "In the trash where you came from," she shouted. She scanned the ground until she found it, picking it up. She brandished it threateningly as if it were a sword. Her friends joined in, although they mostly cheered Emily on, rather than taking part. Emily advanced a few steps, waving the stick. The dog froze, locked eyes with her, and backed up slowly, even from afar. It was impossible to miss the fear. The dog's ears lay flat against its head, tail tucked between its legs, and it looked like it wanted nothing more than to vanish at that moment. Mr. Thomas emerged from his garden gate. He glared at Emily as he crossed the street. Now, young lady," he said firmly. "Put that stick down. Do you have any idea what you're doing? This poor dog might have lost its family. Have you no sympathy?" Emily frowned, glaring right back at the old man. "Why should I care?" she responded coldly. "It's just a filthy stray." Her friend snickered. Mr. Thomas pressed his lips into a thin line. There was a somber disappointment in his gaze, but also a glimmer of resolve. Every creature has a story. You can't know what that dog's been through, and it can't be easy. Living Al alone on the streets looking for scraps, it has feelings too. Emily tossed her hair, her cheeks flushing, slightly at being scolded, whatever she muttered inside. However, something twisted in her chest. She hated how Mr. Thomas's eyes pinned her with that quiet judgment. And though she brushed off his words as nonsense, she couldn't shake an uneasy feeling that followed her home days, drifted into the following week, and the children returned to their routines. The stray dog would appear and disappear, never staying in one place for long. Each time Emily saw it, she gave chase or hurled an insult. Her friends followed suit, laughing uproariously whenever the dog scrambled to get away. But then came the day of the fall. Emily had gone to the local park without her usual gang. She clutched a small purse, its pink straps dazzling under the midday sun. The park was fairly empty, just a few children on swings and a few older couples taking slow strolls. Emily decided to explore a secluded corner near the old drainage ditch, a shallow but steep-sided trench that ran along the park's boundary. She was bored after all. Her friends were busy with other weekend plans. The grass near the ditch was damp and slippery. Emily, wearing stylish flats instead of sneakers, lost her footing with a startled cry. She slid down on the embankment into the ditch. It was only about 5 feet deep, but the walls were slippery with mud. She landed hard on her backside, staining her fancy jeans, and let out a scream of frustration and pain. "Hello, somebody help," she yelled. The few people in the park were out of earshot, or perhaps they didn't hear her over the breeze. Emily's voice echoed pitifully against the concrete walls she tried climbing up, but each time she grabbed the muddy slope, she slid right back down. Her panic grew with every second she was stuck, and her heart hammered in her chest. A few minutes later, she heard a rustling above. To her surprise and dismay, the German Shepherd's face appeared at the top of the ditch. Its dirty ears perked up as it peered down at her. Emily's heart seized. Of all creatures, why this disgusting dog? She scowled. "Go away. I don't need your help." Her voice trembled, not only with anger but with fear. The dog merely tilted its head as though trying to understand. It did not leave. Instead, it descended partway into the ditch. Emily recoiled, alarmed that it was coming so close. "Stay back." She spat, but the dog, ignoring her hostility, inched carefully down the slope. It managed to position itself so that it could clamp its teeth gently onto the back of Emily. Startled, Emily froze. The dog braced its hind legs in the mud and pulled. She felt a firm tug upward. Her sneakers kicked and slipped against the mud, but the dog held on, using its weight and powerful jaws to hoist her inch by inch back toward the surface. After several tense moments and more slipping and scrambling, Emily found herself on level ground, covered in mud, but safe. Her clothes were filthy, her knees scuffed, and her pride wounded. She looked at the dog in astonishment. Its sides rose and fell with exertion, its tongue linged for a moment. They locked eyes. Emily's wide in disbelief, the dog's reflecting. A strange mixture of relief and concern. Emily swallowed, her cheeks hot with shame. She should have thanked it. She knew she should, but that would mean acknowledging that she needed help from a creature she claimed to despise. Instead, she wrenched herself free of its gentle hold and staggered backward. I didn't need your help," she shouted, though her voice wavered. She saw the dog's ears droop slightly, as if it understood her ungrateful tone. Then, with a sad flick of its tail, the German Shepherd turned and trotted away. As Emily stared after it, a confusing wave of emotions churned inside her: shame, gratitude, resentment, and embarrassment, all tangled together. She wanted to scream at the dog, never to show its face again, but part of her recognized how unfair that was. The truth was, it had saved her from a situation she couldn't handle alone. She couldn't deny that yet. Rather than shout a thank you, she stomped home. Her cheeks burning, the memory of its unwavering determination to rescue her clung to her mind like a stubborn shadow she couldn't shake off. For A while Emily pretended that day in the ditch never happened, even so a small seed of doubt had been planted in her heart. Sometimes she recalled the dog's anxious eyes, the quiet determination with which it had pulled her to safety. But her pride stubbornly kept her from telling anyone about it, least of all her friends who continued mocking the dog whenever they saw it. One late afternoon, after visiting a friend's house on the other side of the neighborhood, Emily found herself walking. Home alone, the sun had dipped below the rooftops, throwing long shadows across the sidewalk. The streetlights had not yet turned on, and a few tall hedges created pockets of darkness. She was halfway down a side street when she realized someone was behind her. A man in a ragged hoodie walked slowly but deliberately, matching her pace. At first she told herself not to worry. This was a safe neighborhood, right? But as she tried to speed up, so did he. When she glanced over her shoulder, he flashed. A grin that made her stomach twist. Fear prickled at the back of her neck. She clutched her small handbag tighter. Her breathing became shallow. She picked up her pace until she was nearly running, but she heard heavier steps behind her. Was he chasing her? She turned a corner onto a narrower street, heart pounding like a drum. Suddenly, she found her path blocked by a tall fence, realizing it was a dead end. Emily whirled around, her mind racing in panic. The man appeared wearing that unsettling crooked smile. Then, from the deeper shadows beyond the fence, a snarling shape emerged. The German Shepherd. Emily recognized the silhouette immediately. Its hackles stood on, end ears flattened back as it bared its teeth. A deep, menacing growl rumbled from its throat, echoing in the stillness of the alley. The man stopped, apparently startled by the dog's sudden appearance. He took a step back. The dog advanced, its fierce gaze never leaving his face for all Emily's previous insults about the dog's dirtiness or supposed ugliness. At that moment, it looked like a guardian angel, though one with fangs. "Hey, kid, call off your dog," the man muttered. But Emily was too terrified to speak. The dog took another step forward, lips curled in a vicious snarl that was enough for the stranger. He spun around and sprinted away in the opposite direction, disappearing around the corner. In seconds, Emily sank to her knees, tears pricking her eyes as she tried to steady her breathing. The dog padded toward her, panting, its demeanor transformed from fierce protector back to calm comp. Emily reached out a trembling hand. She realized her entire body was shaking. Why did you help me?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. She didn't expect an answer, of course, yet the dog seemed to respond in its own way, offering a slow wag of its tail, eyes warm and gentle. Emily's shoulders slumped for a moment. She forgot the dog's matted fur and thin frame. All she saw was a loyal guardian, a protector who, despite her constant abuse, had come to her rescue not once, but twice. She carefully extended her hand to stroke the dog's head. The fur was coarse, matted with grime. A wave of guilt washed over her. She opened her mouth to speak, but the words stuck in her throat. Finally, she managed to say, "Thank you." The dog gazed at her with what she could only interpret as acceptance or forgiveness. Then, as if the night called it back, the German Shepherd trotted away. Emily watched until its silhouette vanished around the corner, her heart heavy with both wonder and shame. Though she didn't say a word to her parents that night, nor to her friends, her perspective had started to shift. She realized how cruel and unreasonable she had been. A faint glimmer of resolve took root. She would find a way to make it up to that dog. As the weeks passed, Emily found herself thinking more and more about the German Shepherd. She had begun sneaking scraps of food from her kitchen to set out near the street in hopes that the dog would reappear. Sometimes the food was gone in the morning. Sometimes it remained untouched. She worried that the dog might be wandering too far for her to protect or to apologize properly. Then came the night that changed everything. Emily was asleep in her room on the second floor of her family's large house. The windows overlooked the front yard past midnight. A strange noise roused her. It sounded like the dull thud of something heavy against glass. Disoriented, Emily blinked awake and checked the time just after 1 p.m. She crept to her bedroom door, opening it slightly. She heard muffled footsteps downstairs. Her parents were presumably asleep in their room at the other end of the hall. Heart pounding, She tiptoed down the staircase as she reached the bottom. She froze. A figure clad in dark clothing stood in the living room, rummaging through drawers and cabinets. The faint light of the moon revealed a thin man face partially covered by a scarf, shoving valuables into a bag. Emily's stomach lurched. A burglar. How had he gotten in? Fear overwhelmed her. She wanted to run back upstairs and scream for her parents, but something in her mind locked her in place. The intruder turned suddenly and their eyes locked for a split second. In that single moment, Emily felt real terror grip her without warning. Another figure burst through the open window. It happened so quickly Emily almost missed it. The German Shepherd lunged into the room, snarling ferociously. Its paws skidded on the polished floor, but it sprang forward with fangs, bead tackling the intruder's legs. The burglar let out a startled shout, stumbling backward. The dog bit down on his arm, refusing to let go despite the man's frantic attempts to shake it off. The intruder grabbed a metal fur-place poker lying on the mantel. He swung it wildly, striking the dog's back with a sickening thud. Emily screamed. Finally finding her voice, the noise roused her parents. Light flooded the hallway as they snapped on the bedroom lamp and rushed out, phones in hand. The dog, despite taking a vicious blow, held on. Another desperate swing from the intruder connected with the dog's shoulder, causing it to yelp in pain. By then, Emily's father was already calling the police. Emily's mother grabbed a decorative vase and hurled it at the burglar, forcing him to dodge the intruder, disoriented by the sudden chaos, made a dash for the window, but the German Shepherd tripped him up once more, snapping at his heels within moments. Red and blue lights lit up the street as the police arrived. Officers stormed inside, guns drawn. All Emily could see in that chaotic blur was the dog's trembling body on the floor, blood staining its fur. She rushed forward, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I'm sorry I was so mean to you," she cried, voice choking with sobs. She cradled the dog's head, ignoring the filthy matted fur that only weeks earlier had made her recoil. "Please don't leave me." She could feel the dog's labored breathing against her hands. Her parents, shaken by the break-in, wasted no time. Emily's father gently lifted the injured shepherd, while her mother dialed an emergency veterinary clinic. Mr. Thomas, awakened by the police siren, appeared in the doorway, still in his pajamas. His concerned gaze swept over the scene, and he immediately offered to drive them to the 24-hour vet. They rushed the wounded German Shepherd to the clinic for hours. Emily paced the waiting room, tears staining her cheek. Her parents, deeply moved by the dog's heroic actions, stayed close by, gently rubbing Emily's back and telling her it would be okay. Mr. Thomas, gray-haired, disheveled, sat quietly in the corner, offering the occasional kind word of reassurance. Finally, the veterinarian emerged with a tired but comforting smile. "The dog lost a lot of blood, but we've stabilized him. We'll have to keep him here for a bit. It was a close call, but he's a fighter." Relief flooded Emily. She rushed to the dog's side, although it was still unconscious. She gently placed a hand on its paw. "Thank you," she whispered. "You're my hero." In the day that followed, Emily's parents spared no expense for the dog's recovery. They worked with Mr. Thomas to ensure the shepherd received the proper medical attention it deserved. Word spread quickly through the neighborhood about how the stray German Shepherd had stopped a burglar, and how a young girl named Emily, once so cruel, was now devoting all her energy to nursing the dog back to health. When the dog was finally healthy enough to leave the vet's care, Emily insisted it had come home with her. The transformation in her was unmistakable. She was no longer the high, self-centered child who only saw the world in terms of what it could give her. She had learned compassion, humility, and gratitude, all thanks to a dog she had once despised. Standing in her backyard, Emily patted the shepherd's head. Its wounds had healed into scars, and it still limped slightly on one hind leg, but its tail wagged with unwavering devotion. Whenever it saw her, she and her parents decided to name it Hero. "I used to think you were ugly," Emily said softly, resting her forehead against Hero's. "But now I know you are the most beautiful thing in my life." Hero responded with a gentle lick on her cheek, a far cry from the timid, frightened creature that had once run from flying stones. Emily felt tears of joy slip down her face as she hugged him. Mr. Thomas often stopped by for visits, proud smile creasing his weathered features. When he witnessed Emily's new attitude, her friends, seeing how she had changed, grew kinder as well, though some felt guilty for their own role in tormenting the stray over time. The children realized how harmful their teasing had been following Emily's lead. They found themselves more open to the idea that every living being deserves respect more than just an individual growth. Emily's transformation sent ripples of kindness throughout the entire block. Neighbors became more attentive to stray animals, setting out water bowls and contacting rescue organizations. No longer was the presence of a dog in the street met with fear or disgust. Instead, people saw the potential for goodness and loyalty in every creature. Hero settled into his new home with surprising ease. He loved following Emily around the house, wagging his tail whenever she beckoned. Emily's parents marked at the bond that had formed between their daughter and the once scorned stray. They too found time in their busy schedules to show Hero affection, tossing a ball in the yard or slipping him treats under the table. As for Emily, she felt happier than she ever had. She understood now that real fulfillment came not from controlling others or getting her way, but from empathy and love. Hero's presence was a constant reminder of that lesson. And so we conclude the story of a young girl and the stray dog who became her greatest teacher. Emily learned compassion, bravery, and humility in the most unexpected way through the unwavering loyalty of a creature she had once called disgusting. Hero, true to his name, showed that sometimes the noblest hearts exist behind the most unassuming exteriors. If this story of hope, redemption, and the incredible bond between a child and a dog has touched your heart, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Amazing Paw Stories, your support helps us share more uplifting tales of animals and people who change each other's lives for the better. Join our community of animal lovers, and let's continue to celebrate the brave, loyal, and kind-hearted companions that make our world a brighter place. Thank you for reading. And always remember, kindness can come from the most unexpected places. Just like Emily discovered, true beauty often lies where we least expect it, and that, dear friends, is what makes these stories so amazing. Stay compassionate, stay curious, and we'll see you in the next heartwarming story on Amazing Pod Stories.